Hello friends, hello loyal audience, fans, haters, detractors, uh, dictators. You're all welcome here. This is an equal opportunity host here, and the truth shall be told. So I thought I would make this video in regards to the upcoming elections, remind some people of what I said before. I had actually recorded videos about the election, and I said there will be blood and Putin will not concede a loss in the election. That's how serious things are. And so far, I've been observing, and guess what? Putin will not concede the election, and he will spill blood of Americans. Why? Because he wants his puppet to go back into the White House. Right now, let me explain to you a couple of points. I did make a statement about him terminating the Constitution, right, and ruling by decree. But it was questioned possibly, and even drew some laughs and so on. But guess what? He made that clear. What is terminating the Constitution? Across history, whenever a dictator rises to power, they smooth their way into say here in the United States, the White House or the Kremlin or wherever it is, right? And the first thing they do, they terminate the Constitution. And this is a perfect case across history, no matter where, in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in South America, in North America, well, North America not yet, in the Middle East, right? And so on and so forth. And what do they do afterwards? What did they, whoever they are, whether it's Lenin and Stalin, whether it is Mao Zedong, whether it is Nasser, whether it's Assad, whether it's Ayatollah, whether it's Pinochet of Chile, whether it's Castro, here and there and there and there, across history, or Anwar Khoja in Albania, and right? Whenever the first guy, at first they terminate the Constitution, and next they rule by martial law, right? Immediately martial law is enacted, and then the country is under martial law until supposedly the tribulation or upheaval is over, right? And then the power is settled and so on and so. But it turns out to be a martial law is only a step, and sometimes it takes as long as a decade or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. In the Soviet Union, it was 70 years before it was ended, right? And it took like extremely extraordinary circumstances to end the martial law in the Soviet Union. And the martial law in the Soviet Union, you know what it is, right? Trump and Putin is the heir and the inheritor of that regime, of that despotic system, and so on. And he has not changed. There is nothing democratic about the man or the creature, for that matter, right? So that's the second thing. They enact the martial law, and then of course afterwards they become dictators. And then you just, for those of you in the intelligence community, believe me, this guy goes back to the White House, your job is on the line, right? You will be lucky if it's only your job that is on the line, right? Especially of those of you who have clearance and know things, right? You better believe me, right? Go study what happened in Albania under Anwar Khoja, and then study the events and the details that happened, not just like headlines and stereotypes. And you know, people of the former government in any of those countries, they were being shot on the street, right, on the sidewalks, right? And then how about Hitler? You forget about Hitler? You know, people blame, you know, like when Hitler came to power, it was the stormtroopers who brought him to power, right? And then after he became the chancellor, he and his cohorts, you know, there's always that club, right, the investors club. You know, they established the SS, and what did the SS do? They went ahead and executed those stormtroopers. And those stormtroopers were saluting Hitler, right? You know, hailing Hitler when they were being shot by those minions of Hitler himself, and they didn't know it, right? They were being killed by Hitler, and Hitler, you know, and they didn't know it. The ones that they themselves brought to power. It is typical across history, whether it's the revolution in Iran, or Soviet Union, or China, or Pol Pot, or Burma, Myanmar, or South America, or the Middle East, you know, Assad and Nasser, and right? You know, go take a walk or a trip into the empty quarter in Arabia. There are many people who were thrown in there, not executed. They would bring them, drop them there, right, and then leave by a helicopter or something, and they would die a couple of days later because of the heat and so on. So yeah, those of you who thinks they're MAGAs and bringing Putin back into the White House, you will be the first one to go. And you in the intelligence community, oh, you better spread this. You don't know what's coming your way. You think you're on the wagon? Oh, those on the wagons will be the first to be pushed out. So that's what that. Now let me ask you a question. You may think he's got like good intentions and so on. You may think, right? Make an assumption that's the case. But look again. Why would someone want to terminate a constitution? If you think the constitution has a problem, then you want to amend it, you want to fix it, right? Just think about it, right? Not terminate it. Why? Because the constitution is really at the heart, at the core of any democratic state, let's put it this way, or freedom and whatnot, right? You get it, right? So when someone says they want to terminate the constitution, they are not saying they want to bring freedom and they want to bring democracy and so on. That's totally opposite to it, right? If they're really serious about democracy and leadership of keeping democracy in place and freedoms and preservation of the right of the individual and so on, so they wouldn't terminate the constitution. Terminating the constitution across history, from the moment we recorded our history, like way back ancient time, Babylonians, Egyptians, and so on and so forth. When those dictators come into power and they dissolve assemblies and so on, it's obvious what they do afterwards. It is typical. They never miss, right? So there's for you something for you to consider. You folks, you especially in the intelligence community who are watching this, you may think you have some kind of a prerogative or privilege. Oh, you will see what happens to you, right? Let me tell you about North Korean troops. North Korean troops, there are two prongs to that, right? To that, my criticism of them, right? Or my analysis. Let's put it this way. I have two facets here of the analysis. One, North Korean troops should awaken the Europeans, at least, like if today is North Korean troops, along with Iranian weapons, right? Remember, this is very important. Iranian weapons, drones and missiles and so on and so forth. What else you're waiting for, right? For Shiites to pour in the thousands like they did in Syria and Iraq and Lebanon and here and there, or Chinese conscripts. It happened before when the United States was in the 50s, was at war with in Korea. China cut them off from behind. They poured in hundreds of thousands of troops and cut them off from behind, right? MacArthur was the leader. I think the Nimitz and MacArthur were the generals back then. And the Americans suddenly found themselves trapped and they started withdrawing. And then these Chinese conscripts, the communists, right, started chilling them from the sides of the hills and mountains. And it was disaster. That is why it's North Korea. Attack on the United States troop is why there is North Korea now. The Americans were about 15 days from finalizing the whole thing, right? When China entered, and guess what? You have North Korea now. It's a rogue nuclear country, blah, 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 right? And now, guess what? They're being used to actually influence the election. Now, notice, why would they want to send troops now? Well, like I said, because Putin is in trouble, he needs troops, right? And like what others are saying, Putin and Russia are in trouble. They're losing big. It's taken the might of the world almost, right? China, Brazil, the Gulf Arab countries and other Arab countries and Iran and here and there. And they're arming them with weapons as well as financially propping them up, keeping them afloat, right? Otherwise, Russia would have been done, right? You know that. So you in Western Europe should be alarmed. So why would they want to say, why would they want to send troops now? Well, very simple. Trump kept talking about war, World War III, and warmongering. I assure you, folks, World War III is not even possible now. The only one who can start World War III now is really the United States. Or if anybody else wants to start World War III, they will be destroyed, right? So there's not even a chance, a slim chance now of World War III, right? You may think it's a mistake or could be started by a accident or no, folks. I assure you that's not the case, right? So now he's bragging and talking about World War III that Biden and Kamala, right, are potential starters of World War III. It's him, folks, and Putin is supporting that argument, and so is North Korea, right? They are supporting that argument by sending troops to Ukraine, saying that there's probably a nuclear war and war is going to expand. That very same concept is used by Netanyahu now to prolong the war in Gaza and Lebanon and so on. So, in support of Trump, believe me, he wants him to go back in the White House. So is North Korea. So now he's got support on that argument, that war mongering and fear mongering of World War III. There's no such thing, folks. That's the purpose of North Korean troops in Russia. That's the purpose of the wars in the Middle East. Well, they got multiple purposes, not just one. You know, there are multiple threads to that strategy and those tactics, right? That's what it is, right? So now remember, terminating the Constitution. Terminating the Constitution is very obvious, folks. If you want to terminate the Constitution, martial laws follow. Perfect case across history, martial law, right? He's talking about Hitler and Nazis and so on and so forth, right? You know, bragging about those. Why? He is pandering and catering to some white people. Some white people, unfortunately, still don't know what Hitler is, right? They think he was like for whites and so on and so forth. It is false, folks. It was Hitler and his upper echelons, the Nazis, some in the Nazi party, as well as, right, as well as the SS. They sabotaged Germany in the war against the Soviet Union. Otherwise, Germany would have eliminated communism back then, right? And don't be deceived. He's playing that because he wants your vote. Once you give him your vote, he's going to strip you of your last ability to vote. That's what he made sure of that. He said that. He said that he will fix it, right? Remember? So nobody will vote anymore. He's on the record with that. Two, he in Arizona said he wants your vote and that's it. You know, he don't care what happens to you, right? Well, go ahead. It's on the record. So that's World War III, right? And the lies and the fear and warmongering and bigotry and debauchery and so on, just because they want to get back to the White House. Folks, you have no idea how North Korea, how China, how Iran, how Russia, and how dictatorship here and there in South America, here and there and here and there. Every dictatorship in the world now, including Syria, the Assad, and including El Sisi, General Sisi of Egypt. That's his name, and he's a general. And most of all, MBS and MBZ of Saudi and of United Arab Emirates and Al Burhan of Sudan and so on, they are hell-bent and desperate. And including, guess what? Including those terrorist organizations, right? They are hell-bent and desperate and dying to get Trump back into the White House. And that's Putin, of course. Now, remember Cuba? You know, Castro and his brother, Che Guevara and Che Gopher. Shit Gopher. That's the doctor, Argentinian doctor with the beret and so on. You know, those people who brought them into power, you know, they were shouting and barking imperialism and despotism in America and they were the first one to go. And after Castro and Pinochet and shit gave Gopher, right, came into power, right? Guess what? Look at Cuba now. Look at Cuba. Look at what's happening in Cuba, right? Look at what's happening in Cuba, right? Cuba's people are, for 60 years, are living like dogs. You know what? In their neighborhoods, not even dogs roam, those stray dogs. They don't even roam the neighborhoods. Why? Because the trash in those neighborhoods is void of any nutritional value. The stray dogs don't even go there anymore. And go ahead, view some videos. Now, am I saying what was before Castro and Chet Gopher said, right? Or the United States now, or anybody else is better than what happens after when communism comes, when Putin comes? No, but believe me, It's far better. I mean, it's not the perfect example. It's not utopia, but it's far better than what's coming. Far better than what's coming. Look at Cuba. Cuba before Castro was a little bit of dictatorship here and there, and malpractice, and abuse of a law, and but it's not like after Castro. And it turns out what Castro didn't have the notion of fixing, right, the country. Turns out that the country went downhill from there on, and it's at the bottom. If there is any more room at the bottom for the Cuban people who shouldered the revolution and brought Castro and Che Guevara to power, if there's any room for them to go down, those, and they're the ones who supported them, those dogs, the Castros and the Che Guevara, will push them further down. So that's Cuba. So you want the United States to be Cuba? If Putin comes back into the White House, that's the future of the country. That's it, right? That's the future of the country, right? Believe me, that is the future of the country. And you whites, MAGAs, National Rifle Association, and so on, you will be its first victim. Why? Because the immigrants, right? Let me tell you something about immigrants. The immigrants come here and work for $10 an hour or $15 an hour. So for the investors and for Putin, these are meaningless. They won't push them out because they want somebody to maintain some infrastructure, right? Who is the target? The target is for those who are doing well, right? That's it, because they have the money and they want to shape their money off, right? That's their attack, so when they cry about immigration, it's a lie, folks. This is a ploy. They're playing into your emotions and your feelings and your resentment toward immigration, toward what's going on. What's going on has nothing to do with immigrants, has nothing to do with whatever it is. What's going on is like there are certain set of people that are driving the country clear, and for decades now, and guess what? The country can't stand on its own legs anymore. Guess what? It's the United States was a powerhouse, right? Mighty financially, right? The might of the dollar and so on, right? Right now, I liken it like the cow that is literally skinned and bone, right? Can't stand on its own legs anymore, down on the ground, right? And the hyenas and bloodsuckers are attacking it with unprecedented frenzy, right? That's what it is. You think those who are benefiting by trillions and so on, the billionaires and whatnot, that even their private jets are being subsidized by the White House, such as by Trump and Obama and so on. That's reality, folks. So you MAGAs think you have like something going for you, like a deal or no. So this country would become Cuba, yeah. So he's playing your Hitler. He's playing your Hitler. Trump is playing the Hitler thing, the Nazi thing, the World War III thing. But he never tells you about Cuba, right? This country would become Cuba. It's not like this country should have cleared Cuba, right? Because it's like a thorn in its wound in its side, right? The United States should have, right? Let me tell you what Trump is going to do if he is back in the White House. He will do something similar to the Minsk agreement. He will deliver the nukes to Putin, take the United States arsenal and nukes, and he will deliver them to Putin. Why? Because he doesn't want World War III to happen. Remember, he's trying to prevent World War III from happening, right? He's trying to prevent World War III from happening. Get it? Right? So what will he do? That's what Ukraine did before, because they don't want to have anything to do with war. So they delivered thousands of nukes, right? Warheads to Russia, right? And Russia guaranteed their territorial sovereignty and integrity, right? And guess what happened, right? Believe me, Trump is in that mentality, on that wagon, that before he will do the Minsk agreement, and he doesn't even need an agreement. He will begin the transfer of nukes to Russia regardless, right? You think this is far-fetched? Oh, look again. So Netanyahu's wars are prolonged, and innocent people are getting killed, right? Because he wants Trump back into the White House. He wants this agenda of this new global thing, right? I call it Animal Farm. And he's paying the immigration. Immigrants don't have money, right? So what is he gonna do? He's gonna come after you, who are Americans, who are established, who probably still have some living and money, and he's gonna cut you off. That's it, folks. So let me tell you about Iran, right? Let me tell you about Iran. Iran is in bed, in league, and joined at the hip with Russia. Putin and Ayatollahs are joined at the hip. They are of the same womb, of the same blood, of the same thing, everything else. Iran is providing Russia with weapons, not just drones, artillery, you name it, right? You name it. They're providing Russia with everything that Russia needs, along with, of course, along with China, right? Financially, it's the Gulf Arab countries, right? And then intelligence, all of them, right? So now, why would Iran be against Trump, right? If Putin wants Trump back into the White House. Do you remember when Putin endorsed Kamala Harris falsely, right? Falsely endorsed Kamala Harris? Why would you want to endorse her when everybody in America, including the MAGAs, know how much Trump and others are and like Tulsi and whatnot? They're the bitches of Putin. It's very, very well obvious, right? Why would they want to do that? I mean, this is like a triangle, right? You're telling me they're both in love with Putin and they both don't like each other. It's just not possible, folks, right? It's not possible. That's the analysis of it, but we know different, right? So now, I'll give you an example. We know that that big terrorist of Revolutionary Guard of Iran was killed, right? They say Trump killed him in 2018 by an air raid near Baghdad or something of the sort, and they found his finger. We know for certain, I am of Syrian origin, right? And I track these information, right? We know for certain that Qasem Soleimani was killed by Sunni rebels in Aleppo, Syria in 2016, not 2018. So why would Iran keep that a secret, and then in 2018 they would give credit to Putin, to Trump, right? Having killed him. Just doesn't make sense, right? Folks, no, but they want to say that they want to give him some heroic acts. And now what, assassination, fake assassination attempts or something like that? Folks, if you believe that stuff, there's something wrong here in the upper house. Oh, really? I mean, if you believe that stuff, just link things together, right? Iran and Putin, right? How much close allies and friends and so on they are. They both joined in Syria and Lebanon and Iraq and here and there. Well, the United States too, right? But Russia in particular, Russia did the destruction of cities, and the Iranians also killed a lot of mass population in conjunction. And now Iran is supplying Russia with weapons, you know, keeping them like day and night, churning. Those munition factories are churning out like day and night in order to supply Russia with weapons, similar to North Korea, similar to China, right? Russia is not doing well in this war, folks. No, 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 no. If it's left on its own, either financially or militarily, it'll collapse in a week, right? That's what. That's why Trump is very concerned about that. He's not concerned about war and killing people and so on. And notice they're willing to do all that stuff, right, for Putin, right? Like seed land, they want to give him a false victory when thousands of Russian soldiers are dying on the field every day, right? Yet they don't care about those people dying. They don't care about the world economy being affected. They don't care about Russia nearing collapse. They don't care about anything about Russian people, whatnot, right? They just want a fake victory for Putin, you know, seed land for him. If he's left on his own for 1 week, Russia would just basically get demolished on its own. It will just crumble. That's all there's to it. So Trump is not worried about World War III or the war in Ukraine or people dying. Trump is worried about his benefactor, his master in Russia. That is Putin. That's his purpose of stopping the war. Believe me, it's right now, it's occupying like 90% of his head. Anything else is secondary, right? So that's Qasem Soleimani, right? I know for certain he was killed by the rebels of Syria in 2016, right? He was near Aleppo, right? You know, they're trying to attack Aleppo and so on. I know, I remember that very certain. How he died is, I think, either like an RPG shell hit his armored personnel vehicle, or a mortar landed next to where he's sitting, and he got like a shrapnel in his head, right? And then he became a veggie, like comatose, right? They took him to Damascus and they tried to work him out, you know, see what's going on. It didn't work. They sent him back to Tehran via a military airplane, and then a month later they announced that he was in Moscow, right, for treatment, but that's when really he died. And then we know later, right, what happened. Uh, so dictators, let me tell you about those dictators. From China to Russia to Iran to Syria to Egypt to the Arabian Peninsula, even Modi of India, right? Even the Pakistani, all the Shiites, all the allies, or they're hell bent and desperate on bringing Trump back to the White House. Their situation is not good. Netanyahu, in particular, he is hell bent. He is desperate on bringing Trump back into the White House, right? That's a fact, folks. That's a fact. So you intelligence agent, you better spread this. You better make sure because if you spread this, you will be not just protecting yourself and your family and the future of your posterity and future generations. You will be protecting this country. Otherwise, it will be like Cuba. Just think about Cuba, right? This Cuba will have bulged out and then covered the United States, right? Uh, you know, those MAGAs, man. Some of them are just, I don't know. I mean, they don't see the ominous signs of and the statements and it's just mind-boggling, folks, right? The elections, right? So study the events, the real events, right? Go dig up the real events of what happened in Russia and so on, right? Uh, so the U.S. is the last bastion, right? The U.S. is the last bastion in the world before these guys take over. That's the US, right? It's compromised already, but guess what? There is still some life in it. You better fight, you intelligence agents. There's a lot of censorship going on, folks. You name it, wherever. Oh, there's censorship is going on, and millions are being spent on campaigns and whatnot, and it does appear not to be working, right? So wake up. If uh, Trump goes back into the White House, that's it. This is the last bastion, and then afterwards they will proceed into turning the world back into animal farm. You better believe it. Some of you may be, like I said earlier, may be thinking that they're on the wagon of, of the powerful, of the investors, of so and so. Once everything's, if the United States government folds, right? They will take back all that they gave you and more, right? And like I said, there will be blood. You guys better get ready. When Biden decided to drop out, I thought the chances of a civil war or a military coup has diminished. But I'm back now, hearing the statements and so on, and observing the political field and everybody on it. No, this is gonna be bloody, folks. Right now, Kamala Harris has the overwhelming vote, right? I mean, if they count votes, she'll win by landslide, right? Oh. Oof. But like I said, Pelosi and her cohorts, the one who came against Biden, remember, right? Not because she wants Kamala Harris in, or she wants her in thinking that she doesn't stand a chance or something. They will try that January 6th again. If at least, right? They will try that January 6th again, or so on, right? So you better get ready. I think it's going to be bloody even before then. I think, right? And if afterwards they lose like they did in the first January 6th in 2020, you know what? It's going to be bloody. These guys are on a mission, and this is the last bastion they want to subdue. It's that simple, folks. This idea of elections, of constitutions, of justice system, and just imagine the Soviet Union being resurrected all over again, right? You may think Russia escaped the communists. No. You may think Germany escaped Nazism. No. They're just waiting on a little bit of time. Once they subdued the United States, that's it, folks. They will go back. You will see Stalin, Stalin's ghost and shadow all over you. Lenin and Stalin and Hitler and so on, all over you, time and once and for all. At least they will try. You may ask, how do I know all that? And I'm telling you, I'm just observing things, right? Their statements, their movements, their declarations, their movements, and their past, and I'm drawing a conclusion, correct conclusion. If you can't draw your conclusions from what you're hearing and what you're seeing and your senses, right? And analyze what is going on away from all the hype, away from all that psychological spin zones and so on and so forth that they are putting you on. You blame nobody but yourself, right? If the future turns out to be different from what you're hoping for or trying to work out or waiting for, blame nobody but yourself. You know where to vote, right? Oh, and now I have one final note to make. Those who keep saying, right? Those who keep saying, keep accusing, or keep stating or making the accusation that the elections were rigged in 2020, and they keep making those statements and those accusations, right? They was making those assumptions that the elections were rigged, and that's why Biden got into the White House, and they're never backing out of that claim, right? They're never correcting that claim. Are the first one to actually rig the election machines. Be careful. The Trump and the Putin machine is not just claiming. It's not just claiming that the voting system was rigged, right? Even though it's those very same machines brought Trump back into the White House in 2016, right? They're the same machines. The ones that brought Biden into the White House in 2020, right? They're the same machines. But guess what? Those people who think that they will be the first one to rig the election. And you know what I heard? Lately I read that there are new machines now being brought into the polling stations. Be careful, folks. Be very careful. Be very careful, folks. When you vote, read that voting paper of yours, right? Make sure it is correct, right? And if it's not correct, then make sure that the machine that counts them counts correctly, right? So, so that there's an obvious evidence that the voting machines are now being rigged by the MAGAs, right? And Putin and the investors and those so and so. That's all I've got to say, folks. I got so much to say, but believe me, you have no idea. You know, they keep telling you that how closely this election is contested. You have no idea how detrimental Trump and Putin will be to the United States, this United as a country, right? If Trump goes back to the White House, if Putin goes back to the White House. Putin, folks, when he goes back to the White House, he's not gonna, look what he's doing to the Russian citizen, right? Or whatever was Soviet or Russian Federation, right? They call it Russian Federation, right? You think, well, look, first thing he's gonna do, he's gonna combine you into the Russian Federation. That's just like he's trying to do Ukraine, and he talked about Finland and Sweden, and I assure you, Northwestern Europe, all those Germanics and Scandinavians are included, right? Like Ukraine and United States as well. The Russian federations, there are those republics that were in part of Russia before the communism. Now he keeps them. So Poland is on the chopping block. The Baltics, Finland, Sweden, and Scandinavians and Germanics, they made statements. They want to burn Berlin into ashes, right? And you know what happened in Berlin when the Soviet soldier came into Berlin? There's a movie called A Woman in Berlin, right? You think so? A Woman in Berlin, right? You know how the Soviet soldiers, right? Those Russians, you know how they raped the Russian women and the German women in Berlin, and they used to spit on them and things like that. And how about you, Dutch? You know, when they shut down your airplane over Donbass, and then those Russian thugs, they started looting the victims, searching for money and jewelry and so on. You remember that, don't you? Time to fight, folks. And if Trump goes back to the White House, that's it. Russia or Putin is going to bring the United States into the fold of his Russian Federation. And transferring the nukes, that's real, folks. Trump will make certain to disarm America. That's all there is to it. That's his, he keeps talking about World War III. There is no World War III. Let me tell you about immigration, right? He's making you talking about immigration a lot and immigrants and tearing down the country. I'll give you an example, and it's true everywhere, right? When the constitution was terminated by Assad of Syria or Ayatollah of Iran, right? And then martial law set in, and then they began to people realized they woke up to a nightmare, right? What's happening was very obvious, and poverty set in, and security forces all over you, and it's just like a republic of fear, folks. Turned into a republic of fear, right? But then, when they wanted to kill a lot of people, they invented terrorism, right? Now they talk about terrorism, and in the name of terrorism, they started murdering people. In Syria, the vast majority, 85% of the Syrian people who are of certain religion, right? They were expelled. They were, 20% of them got killed, 20 under bombardment and gases and so on, and 20% of them disappeared, vanished, just like, remember, in South America, how people vanishes in Argentina and in Chile and here and there, right? They just vanished. Nobody knows where they are, right? You would be walking on the sidewalk and security forces would pick you, and that's it, you're gone. And we hear horror stories about jails and whatnot, right? So, and then later terrorism, and they begin destroying cities. Same thing, he's playing the same thing on you here. Your terrorism is really immigration, right? Immigration, that immigration. He will use it to destroy you. We know those terrorist organizations were established by intelligence agencies here and there, and you in the intelligence agencies know what happens, right? You better wake up. Oh, you folks, if you don't care about the country, and like I say, it's not like I said, it's not perfect, but it's far better than what's coming, right? You better worry about your own posterity, your own future generations, your heritage. This is not white and black, folks. This is not Republican and Democrats anymore. Oh, no. This is Putin trying to take the United States into the fold. That's it. That's it, folks. There's nothing more. And have a nice day. And you got a few days to really correct your course and protect your freedoms and your dollar and your things, right? What happened in Argentina? Look at Argentina. Oh, this is no different. This guy Milei is no different than Trump, right? What is he gonna do, right? Look at it. Look, there are reports about its economic woes and so on that were originally caused by investors, nobody else. Have a nice day. Take care, and you know what to do now.